There are kisses a man never forgets, not because they were intense, but because they touched a place that few others ever reach, the unconscious. Most people think kissing is only about desire or chemistry, but what if I told you there are 7 places on a man's body that, when kissed with intention, create a connection so deep he simply can't forget you? This isn't about exaggerated seduction. It's about touching something most people ignore, his emotional mind. Inspired by ideas from Carl Jung, there are subtle ways of making contact that awaken something even he can't explain. The desire to be with you, a sense of safety, a memory that doesn't fade. Today I'll show you 7 places where a kiss leaves a mark not just on the skin, but on a man's heart. And believe me, some of them will surprise you. Most people don't realize it, but there's a kind of kiss that penetrates the body and goes straight to the male subconscious. A kiss that doesn't need to be seen or announced to be deeply felt. The truth is, there are parts of a man's body that hold much more than just skin and muscle. They carry layers of tension, memories, and a deep desire for care. And among those parts, few are as overlooked as the nape of the neck. At the nape, he feels, even when he's not looking. And that might be exactly why this gesture is so powerful. The absence of sight intensifies the meaning of touch. When you kiss him there, you reach him at a level his conscious mind can't block. He's not expecting it, he's not prepared, but he feels it. And in that feeling, something real slips past all his defenses. Many men live as if they always need to be in control. They watch, plan, protect, decide. The world demands this of them, but a kiss on the neck comes from the opposite place. It's a silent gesture that asks nothing, demands no response, and proves nothing. It simply is. And it's in that simple being that he might, for the first time, truly relax. From a psychological perspective inspired by Carl Jung, everything that lies outside our field of vision connects directly to the unconscious. The nape, being a blind spot on the body, becomes a portal to stored emotions. It's the opposite of what's planned. It's what's felt. And so kisses there activate something primitive and emotional, awaken memories he didn't even know he had. They stir up feelings of maternal care, loving touch, quiet belonging, the sense that, with you, he can simply exist. And this isn't about intensity. A kiss on the nape isn't about obsession or flashy seduction. It's about presence. A presence so deep that time seems to slow down. A gentle kiss, barely a whisper on his skin, can say more than words ever could. You don't need to grab him. You just need to be close enough for him to feel the warmth of your breath, the soft dampness of your lips, the calm of your gesture. When that happens, you're communicating something rare, that he can let his guard down, that with you, he doesn't have to be invincible, that he doesn't have to be on constant alert. And that feeling creates a lasting emotional memory. He might not remember the date or what you were wearing or the song that was playing, but he'll remember the feeling that kiss left behind, that slight shiver down his spine, that unexpected comfort that made him want to freeze time for a few seconds. And that, in the end, is what every man secretly longs for. Someone who touches him not out of obligation, but out of love. Someone who doesn't push him to be something else, but sees him exactly as he is. A woman who kisses a man on the neck with intention and gentleness is silently saying, "I'm here, I see you. You don't have to be perfect, just be yourself." One follower wrote something that captured this perfectly. "I always wanted to kiss him there, but I never knew why. Now I understand. It's the place where he lets his guard down without even realizing it. And that's exactly it. It's not about the place itself, but what it represents. The end of mass, the beginning of surrender. If you're with him in a relaxed moment, maybe cooking together, or he's distracted looking at his phone, and you softly approach and place your lips at the base of his neck, right in the middle of the nape, you're not just kissing, you're creating a bond. You're saying, "I choose to see you even when you're not trying to be seen." And that matters more than any rehearsed phrase or grand gesture. Deep down, everyone wants a space where they can just be themselves. The man who feels that silent kiss on his neck begins, without knowing why, to want to be closer. Not because you did something flashy, but because you touched him in a real way. And that authenticity stays. That's what echoes in his mind when he's alone. That's what comes back to him in the quiet of the bedroom, in traffic, in the middle of a hard day. The kiss on the neck is simple, but in its simplicity lies its truth. He doesn't need to see to feel, and you don't need to explain to make something real. That's the beauty of this gesture. It's small, but it says so much. It's silent, but unforgettable. It's invisible, but it touches the deepest parts of him. The inner arm is one of those places almost no one pays attention to. It's always there, constantly exposed, yet still protected, discreet, almost forgotten. But it's that very seeming insignificance that makes it one of the most emotionally powerful places to kiss. Because unlike the more obvious areas, that space between the bicep and forearm holds a quiet symbolism that speaks to who he is and to whom he lets in. Have you ever noticed how a man instinctively protects that area? How he naturally keeps his arms closed when he's tense or feeling insecure? That's no coincidence. Right there, on the inner part of the arms, are the veins that carry blood from the heart to the rest of the body. It's where biological and emotional vulnerability intertwine. And when you kiss that spot, gently and with intention, you're not just showing affection. You're crossing a barrier. You're saying without words, I see your strength, but I also honor your sensitivity. That gesture, small as it may seem, carries immense symbolic weight. It touches the male unconscious in a way he may have never experienced before, as if, for a moment, he doesn't need to prove anything. As if his body understands that with you, he can just be. No defenses, no persona, no pressure to constantly perform. And that awakens something deep, because according to Carl Jung, we all carry archetypes, universal images that shape our emotions and behaviors. And within every man lives the archetype of the warrior, the one who fights, protects, and conquers. But there's also the archetype of the lover, the one who longs to be embraced, seen, and accepted. Kissing the inner part of a man's arm unconsciously activates that second archetype. It balances what he's been trained to hide with what he most deeply needs to feel. It's interesting to see how that gesture resonates. Many women in the comments said they'd never thought to kiss him there. Some even mentioned feeling a natural impulse but never knew why. Now they understand. One wrote, I always thought that part was beautiful, but I didn't think it made sense to show affection there. Today I realize it's where I most wanted to touch him, where I most needed to touch him. And it's not about intensity, it's about presence. It's about the kind of kiss that doesn't happen in the heat of passion, but in the warmth of intimacy. A light, conscious, intentional kiss. One that doesn't speed up the moment, but stills it. One that doesn't provoke, but nurtures. Because in that specific spot, it's not about the touch itself, but what the touch represents. It's about saying with your lips, but without words, I'm here. I respect your story. I didn't come to demand. I came to care. And the most surprising part is what happens afterward. Even if he doesn't say a word about it, even if he never brings it up, that kiss stays with him. It stays in his body, in his emotions, even in his energy. He may go on with his day, work, talk, get distracted, but at some point, maybe in a quiet moment, the memory of that kiss returns. And not because it was sensual, but because it was sincere, because it was rare. Often, what touches a man the most isn't the most dramatic gesture, it's the most unexpected. The touch where he wasn't expecting it, the attention where he thought he was invisible, the affection in a place where he'd never been cared for. That's why he sees you differently, not just as someone who wants him, but as someone he can trust. And trust for a man is the doorway to emotional connection. Maybe you never noticed before. Maybe that part of his body always seemed irrelevant to you. But now think about how you feel when someone touches you, intentionally, in a place you didn't expect, with love, with tenderness. That's the kind of feeling you awaken in him when you kiss that spot. And that's why he won't forget, because it's not just a kiss. It's a moment of reconnection with a part of him the world tries to silence. In many relationships, physical gestures become routine and predictable. But it's exactly those unscripted touches, like a gentle kiss on the inner arm, that reignite the spark of intimacy. That remind both of you there's still something unique happening between you, something no one else can replace. So next time you're together, don't wait for a grand moment. Wait for a real one. Maybe he's lying next to you with his arm over his head. Maybe you're talking, and you're close enough to reach that spot. Take that moment, not to seduce, but to offer, to say without rush that he also deserves to be touched with gentleness. And when you do, watch his reaction. Maybe a sigh, maybe a look, maybe a subtle shiver. Even if he says nothing, you'll know, because when the touch is real, the body responds. And in that small gesture, you're not just offering affection, you're awakening trust, desire, and a sense of belonging. If you've made it this far, you probably understand that true love lives in the details. And if you want to keep exploring this more subtle and deeper way of connecting with a man, subscribe to the channel. Here, you'll always find content that honors your sensitivity and reminds you of the quiet power you hold in the simplest touch. The back, where he carries the world and you bring relief. There's a part of the male body that almost no one pays attention to. It's not conventionally sensual. It's not often complimented. It's rarely touched with emotional intent. But it's exactly there that one of the greatest silent burdens a man carries is stored: his back. A man's back is not just muscles and posture. It's a map of everything he's endured in silence. It's tied to everything he feels he has to bear without complaint. That's where he holds his frustrations, his fears, the weight of others' expectations, and the demands he places on himself. It's the place where, symbolically, he holds up the world, even when no one sees that he's about to collapse. And maybe that's exactly why a kiss on the back, gentle and unexpected, has such a deep impact. Because with that simple gesture, you break through the weight. You touch him right where he believes he has to be the strongest. And without saying a word, you tell him, you don't have to carry it all alone. There's nothing exaggerated about this touch. It's not explicit, not seductive in the traditional sense of the word, but it carries immense emotional strength. A kiss on the back is a kind of caress that breaks through the barriers of male pride. It's a caress that doesn't demand anything, doesn't ask for a response. It simply offers relief. Picture an ordinary moment. He's distracted, maybe in the kitchen, maybe getting dressed to go out. And suddenly you approach him quietly and kiss his back. Nothing more. A slow, intentional kiss between the shoulder blades or along the spine. The reaction is almost always the same. A brief silence, a sigh, a subtle relaxing of the body, as if he were silently saying, "I needed that," without even realizing it. This kind of touch works because it accesses the unconscious. And, according to Jung, the collective unconscious is filled with symbols we learn to recognize without ever being taught. The back for the male archetype represents support. It's the structure that cannot fail. When you kiss him there, you send a deep signal to his unconscious. He's not alone. He has support. He can rest. In the comments on videos about this topic, many women say they had no idea how much this gesture meant. One wrote, "That part about the back really moved me. It's like someone finally saw all of me." That's the essence of what we're talking about. Kissing a man's back isn't just affection, it's recognition. It's seeing what he tries to hide and choosing to stay anyway. There's another element too. The kiss on the back happens outside of his field of vision. He can't anticipate it. He doesn't see it coming. And that makes it more powerful because he has no time to put on the armor, no time to deflect with a joke or change the subject. He feels it. He just feels. This kind of kiss is stored in emotional memory for a simple reason. It touches the quietest part of a man, the part he rarely reveals. It's the kind of gesture he'll never talk about with anyone, but will always remember. A kiss on the back is, symbolically, a reminder that he can exist without a function. That with you, he doesn't have to be useful. He doesn't have to impress. He just has to be. It's important that this touch happens with presence. It shouldn't be automatic. It shouldn't be casual in a distracted way. What makes the kiss special is exactly the fact that it's intentional, even in silence. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not expecting anything in return. You're simply there, present, attentive, caring without overstepping. And maybe that's exactly why it works so well. Because in a world where men are taught to always act, always decide, always endure, your kiss on his back offers the opposite. A pause, permission, an opportunity to simply breathe, to feel human. That gesture, when repeated sincerely over time, creates something rare, emotional trust. He starts to realize that there's a space where he can let his guard down, that with you he doesn't have to pretend everything's fine, that he can show his doubts, his exhaustion, his silences, and still be loved. And when he feels that, when he truly believes he's been fully seen, not just the parts he proudly displays, something shifts. He moves closer. He opens up because he feels he's finally found someone with whom he can be whole. If you've never tried it, try it in a simple moment when he least expects it. Approach him, place your lips between his shoulders, and just stay there for 2 or 3 seconds. Nothing more. Don't say a word, just be there. It's in those silent moments that true connection is born, the kind that doesn't rely on words, the kind that doesn't need proof, the kind that holds strong even on days when everything feels hard. If this kind of love speaks to your heart, if you feel a desire to learn to love with more truth, more presence, more depth, stay close, because that's what we talk about here. Bonds that aren't just beautiful, but real. There's a gesture so small, so delicate, that almost everyone overlooks it. But when it happens, it leaves a mark that words can't explain. It's the kiss on the eyelid. Yes, that silent, soft, nearly imperceptible touch, loaded with meanings that go far beyond the skin. Because kissing the eyelid is to touch him where he cannot see, but where he feels the most, in that space between trust and surrender. We live in a culture that teaches men to always keep their eyes open, to be alert, watchful, strong. A man rarely lets his guard down. He observes, he calculates, he protects. His eyes aren't just for seeing, they're his shield. That's why when he closes his eyes in your presence, when he allows that moment of vulnerability, it means that even without saying a word, he's telling you everything. And it's in that moment that the kiss on the eyelid becomes unforgettable. It's a gesture that doesn't need any special context. Sometimes you're simply next to him in the quiet after a long day. He leans his head, takes a deep breath, closes his eyes, and you, on a tender impulse, gently place your lips there, without rush, without trying to impress. Just to say with your skin what words can't reach. I'm here. You can rest with me. And he doesn't just feel the kiss, he feels what comes with it. Peace, surrender, trust, the right to set the world down for a few seconds. The strength of this kiss lies in its gentleness. It's the contrast that makes it so striking. The world demands so much of him. It seems like everything is constantly telling him, be prepared, react, conquer, show that you can handle it. But when you kiss his eyelid, you do the opposite. You say, here, you can let go. Here, you don't have to prove anything. That's the emotional contrast that sparks a memory. It's the break from expectation that creates impact, because he's not used to that kind of affection. He doesn't expect that kind of love. Psychologically, the eyelids are deeply symbolic. They're the natural boundary between the external and the internal. Closing the eyes is an act of disconnection. It's trusting that, for a few seconds, the outside world can wait. When you kiss a man there, you're touching that boundary. You're saying to his subconscious, it's safe to come inside. That's why the kiss lingers, because it doesn't just touch the skin, it breaks through the surface and goes straight to where he most needs to be touched, where he can stop being what's expected and just be himself. A gesture like that doesn't happen by accident. It takes presence, attention. It's the kind of affection that can only come from silent listening, from sensing the right moment, from connecting to his body not as something to be touched, but something to be understood. Because the kiss on the eyelid isn't about physical desire. It's about realizing that sometimes the deepest intimacy lives in silence, and that there are touches that say more than any passionate declaration. It's in that silence that the story of this gesture lives. You don't need to say you care. You show it. You don't need to explain that he can trust you. He feels it. The absence of words becomes a language, and that language is absorbed by something he can't control. Pure emotion. Emotional memory. The kind that doesn't fade even as days pass, even as time stretches out. He may not remember what you said, but he'll remember the moment you made him close his eyes and kissed him there. In one of the most touching comments on this topic, a woman wrote, "It's like the world stops for a moment when you kiss him there. He doesn't see it, but he feels everything." That sentence carries a powerful truth, because kissing the eyelid doesn't need to be seen to be felt. And maybe that's exactly why it works so well. It flies under the radar of reason, goes straight to the emotional center, and that's exactly where it builds something no technique can teach. True emotional intimacy. In a relationship where love is built in layers, it's these small gestures that create depth. Not the promises, but the silent acts. Not intensity, but the consistency of touch. And it's here that the kiss on the eyelid becomes a symbol, a code between two bodies that understood each other without hurry, without performance, just with truth. In a world that demands constant strength from men, you become the place where they can let their guard down. And that place isn't a role you play. It's a space you create with your touch, your presence, your silent listening. Kissing his eyelids makes you his home, at the moment he needs shelter most. And when he's alone, in silence, at the end of a difficult day, he may not even know why he misses you, but he will. He'll remember that feeling of peace that only you could bring. He'll close his eyes and for a second, feel the weight of the world disappear again, because you touched where no one else does, because you saw what no one else sees, because you loved where almost no one reaches, and that he never forgets. Some touches don't shout, don't announce themselves. They simply exist, delicate but impossible to ignore. And that's exactly what happens when you kiss a man on the side of his waist. That often overlooked area holds a sensitivity as deep as it is quiet. It's not an obvious place. And maybe that's exactly why it's one of the most effective for awakening something most people never reach: emotional desire. The side of the waist is a boundary zone, neither fully intimate nor fully public. It's a middle ground where the physical meets the emotional. When you place your lips there, calmly, intentionally, without hurry, you're saying something the body immediately understands, even if the mind hasn't caught up yet. You're saying, "I'm here, I feel you, I want to feel you, but I also want you to feel seen." That gesture carries a delicate awareness. It's not an invasive kiss, nor purely sensual. It's full of presence. It's almost like a question that doesn't need to be answered with words. Will you let me truly know you? It's in this area that his body tends to hold tension, not just because of muscles or nerves, but because symbolically, this is where he guards himself, protects his own vulnerability. By kissing him in this part of the body, you're doing more than offering affection. You're giving permission, a silent invitation for him to surrender, not just to the moment, but to the connection. It's important to understand that this part of the body is directly tied to the protective instinct. Biologically, the torso is where the vital organs are. The waist is the center of balance. Symbolically, Jung spoke of the body as a mirror of the soul. So when you touch this area, you're reaching more than muscle. You're reaching unconscious layers that associate the gesture with surrender, trust, and even emotional safety. And there's a kind of magic that only this area offers. It balances physical desire with emotional affection. Unlike other areas that are clearly linked to sex or tenderness, the side of the waist provokes and soothes at the same time. It's the kind of touch that says, "I desire you, but I also want to take care of you." The technique here isn't in doing something complicated, it's in how you perform the gesture. A light kiss, barely a whisper from your lips. A pause before continuing. A slow, shared breath. The intention to touch and remain, not just provoke a reaction. When you kiss him there slowly, attentively, his body understands that this moment is different. It's not routine, it's not impulse, it's feeling. And that is the key to deeply reaching the male subconscious. To show him that with you, he can experience something new, even through an old gesture. Because what separates a real kiss from any other is the intention. One follower summed it up perfectly when she said, "I used to think only intense kisses left a mark. Now I see that the most delicate ones are the ones that stay forever." And she's right, because it's not intensity that marks the heart. It's what remains when everything else goes quiet. In this area of the body, touch becomes language. You're not just saying with desire, "I want you." You're saying, "I want to be fully with you." And for a man who's been pressured his whole life to be strong, to solve everything, to hide his emotions, that is liberating. This kiss also plays a vital role in strengthening emotional bonds. When a man feels that you see even the parts of him he considers insignificant, he forms a bond with you that transcends attraction. He begins to associate your presence with relief, with unexpected tenderness, with the possibility of being himself, effortlessly. You're not demanding he impress you. You're simply there, offering warmth and care in a place he didn't even know needed it. And that gesture creates silent memories, the kind that rise up when he's alone, lying in bed, trying to understand why he misses you. It wasn't the kiss itself, it was the feeling it left behind. That mix of a shiver and tenderness, the delicacy that came with true presence. The kiss on the waist is like a secret that stays between you two. Something so intimate and delicate it doesn't need to be explained, only remembered. Don't underestimate this gesture. So delicate, yet so deep. It seems small, but it carries enormous emotional weight. It's not about conquering, it's about building. And when you understand that, you stop trying to be unforgettable, because you simply become unforgettable. If this resonated with you, if this content opened your eyes to a deeper, more genuine, more emotionally intelligent kind of connection, then it's time to join this community. Here, we don't talk about superficial love. We build the kind of love that transforms. Subscribe now. But above all, don't leave just yet. There's so much more waiting for you. Dive into the other videos here on the channel and keep expanding your energy and your power. I'll see you in the next video.